With the release of Battlefield 1 and 5 and all the hype going on around them with their great gameplay and amazing visuals, I thought about going back to the 2013 installment of the Battlefield series to see how it stacks up in 2020 and if it's still worth it. Especially that you would be able to grab it for a sweet deal nowadays, or maybe able to get it with EA access on consoles or PC. What's up everyone and welcome to a new video. My name is Omar with Real Gamer Review, and today we are reviewing Battlefield 4 almost 7 years after its release. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and liking the video and turn on the bell icon to watch more videos like this one. Without further ado, let's get right into it. I always had a soft spot for Battlefield since my introduction to the franchise through Battlefield Bad Company, all the way back in 2008. It's not always as fast-paced as other first-person shooters, but it managed to separate itself from others by taking a different approach that made it what it is today. The story and missions for the campaign this time around were different from the previous installment, as DICE also took a different approach. A bit more like the Call of Duty franchise, with great cinematic and excellent battle choreography in each mission through multiple locations around the globe. The campaign length is around 8 to 12 hours of gameplay, depending if you are focusing only on the main story plus missions, or if you are just a completionist that leaves nothing behind. Another new thing you will notice this time around is that the story strikes a more intimate note, as the characters have more developed personalities, and they also added a bit more memorable moments during the campaign that you will encounter every now and then while going through it. My only issue with the campaign, despite all the good points that I previously mentioned and how the developers tried to make more connection with the characters, is that unfortunately you would be often interrupted by the jumping between different sets every mission or so, with some gap holes that might get you a bit confused about what is actually going on and the events of the story. It's a bit of a shame, as it takes away from the memorable moments and the connection to the characters that the developers tried to implement in this installment, but still, you will enjoy the overall campaign and will definitely encounter a few memorable moments through it. As I mentioned before, Battlefield usually took a different approach to stand out when compared to other first-person shooters, and that was obvious when they first introduced the destructible environments to the franchise, and it had an even bigger effect when they announced that the feature is available in the multiplayer as well. Some people were even skeptical at the time when the developer DICE announced that the multiplayer map would look different after the online matches finished due to the amount of destruction that might happen to the environment. And I would say DICE delivered on their promise when it came to this part. The destruction engine that was first introduced back in Battlefield Bad Company evolved throughout the years and kept getting better all the way to the last installment of the franchise. But since we're reviewing here Battlefield 4, so I'll focus more on it in this particular installment. So at the time Battlefield 4 was released, the destruction engine was a bit better than the first time it was introduced. Not as good as the last installment of the franchise, of course, but still, it was pretty good. This time around also, the whole game felt a bit faster than the other installments of the franchise, especially in the multiplayer section that we will be talking about in just a bit. The game has pretty decent selection of different weapons that you unlock when progressing through the main campaign or when you get promoted through the multiplayer. Of course, as you already know, I'm sure that both modes are separate when it comes to unlocking the weapons. Every weapon has a different feel depending on its type and the kind of customization and attachments added to it. As I mentioned before, the multiplayer this time around felt a lot faster in pace and more aggressive when compared to the previous installments, which is a good thing, as Call of Duty at the time was setting some sort of a standard that Battlefield couldn't keep up with until the release of this installment. I would even dare to say, and I know that this might upset some fans, but I think back at that time Battlefield 4 had a better campaign and multiplayer when compared to its counterpart from the Call of Duty franchise. Battlefield was one of the first franchises to introduce the 64-player maps to the multiplayer mode, and it had a huge impact at the time as it was happily welcomed by the players. The multiplayer has a lot of different modes to choose from. I wouldn't be able to mention all of them here as the multiplayer majorly evolved through the years to having a big list of different modes to select from. I personally still play and enjoy the multiplayer in Battlefield 4 among a lot of other players, and if you are a first-person shooter fan, I would strongly recommend to give it a try. And of course, as most of the first-person shooter games, you get promoted as you play through the multiplayer, and you get to unlock different weapons as well as different parts for the customization of those weapons. There are 4 different types to choose from in the multiplayer modes, which are Assault, Engineer, Support, and Recon. And of course, as every other first-person shooter, each choice gives a slightly different set of perks and weapons. My only issue with the multiplayer is that on some of the maps I felt that it is a bit limited. Like you can destroy every single wall in the map, but other than that, it is pretty good. Of course, since the installment was released all the way back in 2013, it wouldn't be fair if we put it in a direct comparison with the latest installment of the franchise or even other 2020 first-person shooters, but nonetheless, this game still looks pretty good visually in 2020, especially if you are playing it on a decent PC and cranking all the graphics and visuals to their maximum. The visuals and graphics, from the textures, character models, all the way to the tiny details in the weapons and environment is pretty good, at least to me. And I'm pretty sure that most people would be happy if they try this game for the first time in 2020. And still, you won't get a good experience only on PC. The game also looks pretty decent on Xbox One X and PS4, and you can even play the multiplayer on both consoles on 60 frames per second if you are a fan of the higher frame rates in first-person shooters. When it comes to the music and audio part, I would say that DICE did a pretty good job, especially when it comes to the sound effects of the weapons and the vehicles. I personally always preferred how the weapons sound in Battlefield games compared to the Call of Duty franchise, as in Call of Duty the weapons sounded a bit softer to my ear, but of course that in the end is up to personal preference. As for the music, there is a good selection of a few tracks that play every now and then during the campaign, but I would say they didn't care that much about the music, as in the end that is how it goes with most shooters, as most gamers will be more focused on shooting the enemies or other gamers.
Go, go! Son of a bitch! Let's go.
So overall, all I would say is that the game has some excellent sound effects with an above average music, to be fair. As a conclusion, and after playing the game for years and seeing how well it aged compared to other games that were released during the same time period, and despite some small annoying issues, I would say that Battlefield 4 is one of the best first-person shooter games in the last decade. I personally am still enjoying this game till today, and I would definitely recommend anyone who hasn't tried it yet to go and play it, and make sure to try the multiplayer. You also have the added benefit of probably being able to grab it at a pretty decent price point. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell icon to watch more videos like this one.